Football isn't just about skill and strategy. It's also about fear. Some players step onto the field and opponents immediately know they're in for a long day. Whether it was their bone-crushing hits, relentless aggression, or just their intimidating presence, these guys made the game terrifying. Today, we're breaking down the scariest player from every NFL team in history. Let's get into it. Buffalo Bills Bruce Smith. The all-time sack leader, Bruce Smith, was a nightmare for quarterbacks. With 200 career sacks, unmatched speed off the edge, and relentless aggression, he dominated for nearly 2 decades. Miami Dolphins Zach Thomas. Zach Thomas wasn't the biggest guy, but he played with an insane level of intensity. A tackling machine, he was always in the right spot to deliver a crushing hit. If you want a pure pass rusher, Cameron Wake was an absolute force off the edge. New England Patriots Rodney Harrison. Harrison wasn't just a hard-hitting safety. He relished making receivers pay for coming over the middle. His intensity and reputation for borderline dirty hits earned him the title of one of the most feared defensive backs in NFL history. New York Jets Mark Gastineau. A founding member of the New York Sack Exchange, Gastineau was a relentless pass rusher with an explosive first step. His aggressive style and unrelenting motor made him a nightmare for quarterbacks in the 1980s. Baltimore Ravens Ray Lewis. When Ray Lewis stepped on the field, it felt like a war zone. His legendary pregame speeches, violent tackles, and leadership made him one of the most feared linebackers to ever play the game. Cincinnati Bengals Vontaze Burfict. If there was one player opponents hated to face, it was Vontaze Burfict. His reckless, borderline dirty play and willingness to take cheap shots made him one of the most feared and hated defenders of his era. Cleveland Browns. Myles Garrett. Known for his freakish athleticism and sheer strength, Myles Garrett is one of the most intimidating pass rushers in recent NFL history. And let's not forget that infamous helmet swing. He's a force on the field. Pittsburgh Steelers Jack Lambert. Jack Lambert wasn't just a linebacker. He was the embodiment of fear. With his wild eyes and aggressive, no-nonsense style of play, he was a nightmare for any offense. Houston Texans. J.J. Watt. At his peak, J.J. Watt was unstoppable. He didn't just sack quarterbacks, he wrecked entire offenses. His combination of power, speed, and relentless effort made him the most dominant defensive player of his era. Indianapolis Colts. Dick Night Train Lane. Night Train Lane wasn't just a cornerback, he was a feared enforcer. Known for his brutal style of play, Lane would flatten receivers with his notorious clothesline tackle. He was as intimidating as they come. Jacksonville Jaguars. Tony Boselli. Most intimidating players are on defense, but Tony Boselli was an offensive tackle who made defenders scared. He dominated some of the best pass rushers of all time and made life miserable for defensive linemen. Tennessee Titans. Jevon Kearse. They called him the Freak for a reason. Jevon Kearse had an unreal combination of size, speed, and power, making him one of the most intimidating pass rushers of his time. Denver Broncos, Steve Atwater. Steve Atwater's legendary hit on Christian Okoye alone solidifies him as the scariest Bronco ever. He was one of the hardest-hitting safeties in NFL history and made receivers fear going deep. Kansas City Chiefs, Derek Thomas. With insane speed and a relentless motor, Derek Thomas made life hell for quarterbacks. He once recorded 7 sacks in a single game, proving just how unstoppable he was. Las Vegas Raiders. Jack Tatum. They didn't call him the assassin for nothing. Jack Tatum was one of the most feared hitters of all time, delivering some of the most vicious tackles the league has ever seen. Los Angeles Chargers. Junior Seau. Junior Seau played with pure passion and pure violence. His energy, intensity, and ability to deliver punishing hits made him one of the most feared linebackers in history. Dallas Cowboys. Randy White. Randy White was a monster on the defensive line. With his blend of size, strength, and intensity, he terrorized quarterbacks and linemen alike. He wasn't just feared, he was respected. New York Giants Lawrence Taylor. The scariest player of all time, period. LT revolutionized defense with his speed and violent playing style. He didn't just sack quarterbacks, he broke them. Philadelphia Eagles. Brian Dawkins. They called him Weapon X for a reason. Dawkins played with an insane level of intensity, delivering some of the hardest hits a safety has ever laid down. Washington Commanders. Sean Taylor. Sean Taylor was a different breed. His ability to deliver bone-crushing hits while also being an elite playmaker made him one of the most feared safeties of all time. Chicago Bears Dick Butkus. Dick Butkus was the definition of an old-school linebacker, violent, relentless, and terrifying. He hit like a freight train and made sure every opponent felt it. Detroit Lions, Ndamukong Suh. Suh was one of the dirtiest players in NFL history, and he loved it. Stomping on players, late hits, he did it all and never backed down. Green Bay Packers, Reggie White. Reggie White was a force of nature. His combination of power and speed made him one of the most unstoppable pass rushers in NFL history. Minnesota Vikings, John Randle. John Randle was ferocious. His insane energy, trash talk, and pure dominance as a defensive lineman made him one of the most feared players of the 90s. Atlanta Falcons, Jesse Tuggle. They called him the Hammer for a reason. Jesse Tuggle was an absolute menace at linebacker, delivering punishing hits and leading the Falcons' defense for over a decade. Carolina Panthers, Julius Peppers. At 6'7" and 290 pounds, Julius Peppers was a freak of nature. His combination of size, speed, and athleticism made him one of the most intimidating pass rushers the game has ever seen. New Orleans Saints, Ricky Jackson. Ricky Jackson was the most feared player in the Saints' defense. As a linebacker, he was relentless, ferocious, and played with a nastiness that earned respect from every opponent. Tampa Bay Buccaneers, Warren Sapp. Few defensive tackles talked as much trash as Warren Sapp, and even fewer backed it up like he did. His dominance in the trenches made him feared by linemen across the league. Arizona Cardinals, Adrian Wilson. Adrian Wilson was a wrecking ball at safety. His hard-hitting style and ability to punish receivers made him one of the most feared defensive backs of his time. Los Angeles Rams, Deacon Jones. The man who invented the term Zach, Deacon Jones was one of the most dominant and feared pass rushers in NFL history. His signature head slap left offensive linemen seeing stars. San Francisco 49, here's Ronnie Lott. Ronnie Lott was not the guy you wanted to see coming at you. His violent hits and no-nonsense mentality made him one of the scariest safeties ever to play the game. Seattle Seahawks, Kam Chancellor. Kam Chancellor was the heart of the Legion of Boom and one of the most devastating hitters the game has ever seen. Just ask Vernon Davis. He felt Kam's power firsthand.